Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we are doing a season preview for the VCT Americas team, Loud. Loud is a Brazilian esports org, and their Valorant roster over the past 2 years have been making big splashes. They have consistently been one of the better teams in the entire world, winning a tournament, making it to 3 grand finals total, but they couldn't get it done last year. After they won champions in 2022, they came into 2023 with a bit of a new roster because they lost their players in Sasi and Pancata, but they still kept most of the roster, and their replacements seemed to work out very well, so their early returns didn't really matter too much because they ended up placing second in lock-in. Unfortunately, they could not get the reverse sweep on Fnatic done. That would have been an incredible moment, especially in front of the home crowd in Brazil, but unfortunately, it didn't work. Then going into the Americas regular season, they yet again looked very good with an 8-1 record during that regular season, and then they just stormed through playoffs and beat Energy in the grand final, being the first champions of the franchised Americas League. So there was hope that the second place curse, which was a thing that hindered them before when they lost to Optic all the way back in 2022, Masters Rank Vic. In the next tournament that year, they did very poorly, losing again to Optic, but then they won champs, so it didn't really matter. But then with this, going to grand final in lock, and so back-to-back grand finals for this team, then losing that one, there was hope that the second place curse, I even made a video about it, there was hope from the fan base that that wouldn't happen to them again, and then it did. They didn't even win a single map during Masters Tokyo in 2023, 7th to 8th placement, really bad there. They just looked lost. They did not look like the same team, especially after a dominant regular season and a very good Americas playoff. So that was one of the most surprising results. I personally took them to win that tournament. I thought the second place curse wouldn't matter for them. Now the second place curse is dead. Evil Geniuses has been the first team to actually beat it. They won champions after losing in second place in Masters Tokyo, so maybe Loud won't have this happen to them again, but they also haven't, made it to a grand final since lock-in. Then at champions, I remember a lot of people saying that they weren't as good, that they were washed, that they weren't going to do as well. They had a shaky group stage where they didn't really look that good. I believe they lost a match as well, and they were heading into playoffs playing Fnatic as their first match, and I looked at that and I was like, yeah, they could win that for sure. A lot of people thought I was crazy because I was taking Loud to beat Fnatic, but they ended up beating Fnatic twice during the tournament. They won that match, then they beat Fnatic later on to get that third place spot. They unfortunately just could not win against Evil Geniuses in an absolute barn burner of a match. So that ends the 2023 edition of Loud, and unfortunately they knew heading into that offseason that they were probably going to be losing some players on the roster, most notably Aspas. Aspas being one of the best players in the entire world. He's at very least top 5, I think he's top 3. He's an incredible duelist player that is known for just putting up an insane amount of kills and just never dying. He's an extremely good player, but unfortunately Loud, they were trying to keep him, but they just couldn't get it done. He moves to Leviathan. So how do you replace that player? Well, the answer is you don't, and Saadhak, the IGL of this team, even talking about it during the offseason, saying we're not just going to try to find a one-for-one replacement of Aspas because there's only one Aspas, so they end up going with a player that was playing on Furia last year in Quick. Quick is a good player, but he was not playing duelist last year. He's not known as a duelist player, so him being the replacement for Aspas, again, they're not trying to do a one-for-one replacement, obviously, but I do think that there were probably better options to go with, that you could, get a player like Digijin, who doesn't have a tier 1 spot right now. He was on Furia last year as well. He was very good for them, but they instead go with Quick, I guess because they felt like he just fit best with the roster. We'll see how it goes. We will talk about his stats last year later. Championships won by the org R1, already talked about. Champions 2022, very good match against Optic there. They were playing Optic so much that year, it was absolutely crazy. For their 2023 MVP, I chose Aspas. I don't think there's going to be a lot of argument about that. You could make an argument for less, but I think that Aspas is just so far and above so many players in the VCT that it's hard to argue that he wasn't their MVP last year, but hopefully they can fill the loss of him. Looking at the 2023 stats for all these players played in Tier 1 last year. Starting with Les, he had 1,308 kills, 1,059 deaths, 358 assists for key ratio of 1.23. His character list is short. He played Killjoy and Viper for the entire year. Les is an extremely good player on those roles. He's a great Sentinel and he's a great Smoke, but only having one character in each of those roles, maybe you might see Les try something else this year or try a different character, but I mean, if it continues to work the way that has been, there's not really any reason to. I could see Les maybe trying out the duelist role if Quick doesn't adapt to that role, but at the same time, if that role is filled and you don't need to worry about it, then I think you should definitely keep Les on those Killjoy and Viper roles because he's very good on it. Moving on to Kawazine, he had 1,168 kills, 1,118 deaths, 632 assists for key ratio of 1.04. He was an initiator player last year. He played Skye, Breach, Sova, and Fade. So with the Skye nerfs, that's definitely going to probably prevent Kawazine from playing that character that much. Skye is just really is pretty useless right now, to be completely honest. Maybe we see him play Gecko or some other initiators, because I don't know if this character list is particularly strong aside from Sova. Fade's good too, but she was much better in the past. But overall, I trust Kawazine to put up similar numbers that he did last year, because he's a very good player. He came in, he was one of the replacement players for Saucy and Panketta, and it worked out swimmingly. Moving on to Tui, who also came in after Saucy and Panketta, 978 kills, 1,038 deaths, 697 assists for key ratio of 0.94. He was a smokes player for them. He played Harbor, Brimstone, Astra, and Omen. He performed very well on that smokes role last year, putting up a decent amount of kills, a decent KD ratio overall, and he was very solid for them last year, so I don't expect much to change in his play. Moving on to their IGL in Saadhak, he had 978 kills, 1,134 deaths, 654 assists for KD ratio of 0.86. He played any role that he needed to play. He even played Chamber for one map during the grand final against Energy, but aside from that, he played Raze, Killjoy, Viper, KO, and Breach. So he's able to play whatever role needs to be filled by him. That's the kind of player he is. He will be flexible with whatever role he has to play, but the main thing that you're looking for with Saadhak is his IGL, and he's known as one of the best IGLs in the world for a reason. And just like with the changes of Sassy and Panketta leaving, I do expect him to get a lot more good results out of this team despite losing his best player. He's not known for putting up a ton of kills, but even so, he does have decently respectable numbers. A 0.86 is not very good, but 978 kills overall with those roles, not bad. What would be ideal for Saadhak, I think, is seeing some of those numbers on the baseline improve, maybe getting more kills, less deaths, but at the same time, as long as he continues to be the very good IGL he is, it won't really matter. Moving on to their new addition in Quick, he had 490 kills, 526 deaths, 172 assists for key ratio of 0.93. He played Viper, Cypher, Killjoy, and Harbor. So a Sentinel controller flex player last year. I don't know if he's going to be playing a ton of Duelist. We will see. We'll probably see him on that role a decent amount. Can he absorb that loss of Aspas and prove that he can be at least a decent replacement? Potentially, but at the same time, looking at his KD ratio, it wasn't exactly like he was known for getting a lot of kills last year. That could change, however, with an improved environment in Loud and a team that has very high standards and really wants to win, but we will see. Overall, this roster is still very good, and I do agree with Saadhak when he was talking about how people are underrating this team, because they absolutely are. I've seen some people with this team like pretty far down, but it's still the same roster. They just don't have Aspas. Obviously, that is a very tough loss, but this is still the team with a star IGL, with a star player in Less, a great support player in Kawazine. Like, you still have some really good pieces here. Unfortunately, not all of these players have great KD ratios because Aspas was just killing everybody, so it didn't matter. But this still is absolutely one of the best teams in the Americas, and I do expect them to perform well. One thing that might hurt them, though, is the current map pool isn't exactly in their favor. Looking at their maps last year, their best maps were Haven with an 8-0 record. They haven't lost on Haven in a very long time. Attack was 66%, defense was 58%. Very strong split as well, 11-5 record with attack being 56, defense was 53. Honorable mention to Ascent as well. They are very strong on that map too, but they did have a better win percentage on split, so I went with that one. Their worst maps are Pearl with a 6-6 record, attack was 60%, defense was 47. Lotus 3-4 record, attack being 50%, defense was 46. So the maps that they weren't as strong on, they didn't exactly have a terrible record on, with Pearl being one of their worst maps. They were even on it with the same amount of wins and same amount of losses. There is one other map like that. But losing Haven is a big loss for this team. They're very dominant on that map. They're one of the best teams in the entire world at that map, maybe even the best, and losing that best map, that's really tough. But at the same time, they're still good on split. They're still good on Ascent. They don't have a bad map pool at all, and I don't really expect that to change. They do have a new coach, though, so it could. But overall, I think this team is still very good. They're still one of the top teams in the Americas. I don't expect them to have a huge fall off, maybe a little bit. I don't think you can make an argument for them being better than they were last year, obviously, because losing your best player, that's very tough. But at the same time, I do trust the brain trust of this team to be able to get a lot of wins out of this team. This is a team that wants to win. This is a team that knows how to do it, and I do expect them to at least have some strong performances throughout the season. Do they win an international tournament? I personally don't think so, but stranger things have happened, and this team will have high standards for this season. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think Loud is going to have the fall off that many people expect, or do you think that they're going to continue their dominance of the Americas and maybe even of the entire world? Please click like if you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.